the first thing we're going to talk about over today and into Monday, this is really a short unit. So this one's going to be, the test for this one should be like a big picker-upper for your grades. So we've done functions. We know that a function means it has a single input always has a single output, right? Every time you put a number in as an input, it's always going to get the same number out. That's an equation. It makes a function. Now we're going to look at data analysis. We're going to analyze data. For you guys, this is important. As we get into the election year here, you're going to see people skew the data. Skewing the data means they alter the data to make it say what they want it to say. And they do that in a bunch of ways. What they might do is only show you a cluster. A cluster is a grouping of data points. But instead of showing you the whole plot, they might just show you catch, move over there. Okay, I'm going to sit you by yourself since every time I talk, you talk. Just sit over there for a bit. So they might only show you that. They might show you a couple of points. They might draw a graph that only gives you a portion of it. You guys, your job, and the reason Texas wants you to learn it is so that you can look at data and not let people lie to you. Does that make sense? No. So this first one is really just an intro to it. An intro.
Oh.
So here is a scatter plot. We've plotted a bunch of points, and you can look at this scatter plot and see some stuff. So a cluster is a set of closely grouped data. This is a cluster. This is also a cluster. So these two are clusters.
That one on the outside is an outlier.
No, it's an outlier.
Oh.
So those two are clusters. They're points of data where there's a lot of points all coming together at one spot. They tell us good things about the data.
Or good luck to you.
So an outlier is a point that's very different from the rest. Kind of like this guy right here. He's an outlier. Now, outliers have value. They generally are, and here we're talking about somebody doing exercising, intervals versus duration. So how much time between exercises, and they're looking at that. This person right here, or this person right here, is obviously not somebody you would design your exercise program around, because they're kind of way outside the norm. You've got a group of low performers and a group of high performers, or vice versa. Those two groups are good ways to design your program. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So association describes how they're related. Think about, when you think of association, think slope. When you think association, think slope. How does a positive slope rise?
That way.
Here you go, Ellen. Or Erin. Sorry.
I need a sucker now.
No, she gets one if I do that. Erin, here's the dance move. Positive slope, negative slope. Positive slope, negative slope. So if it rises to the right, it's a positive association. Anybody watching this video is going, what are they doing? Well, we're going positive slope, negative slope. Positive slope. It's because it's good. Positive slope, negative slope. They're better? So a positive association, in a positive association, everything's roughly going up and to the right. In a negative association, and what this means in a positive association, it means when the x is getting bigger, the y is also getting bigger. In a negative association, what this is saying is x gets bigger, y gets smaller. So that's a negative association. And then we also have no association. No association means there's a bunch of dots on the paper and they mean almost nothing.
Random.
No association might be, if we took you all and we said hamburgers that you eat in a month.
Like 0.
It's really not going to have much factual basis, right? Some of us are going to eat a few, some of us are going to eat none. But when we do it again next month, it's not really going to, it's not really a good, we're just going to have this big blob of chart, right? We're going to have Will and Tell back there who eat a ton of hamburgers a month. because that's all I've seen them do is eat picnic food.
What now? What now?
Today we had a potato.
Okay, so it's really not associationable.
Chicken, I eat chicken wings and
So positive slope, negative association, negative association. Now, the next thing we talk about is there a linear association? If you have no association, there's not really a line. If you can see, these are kind of moving roughly in a line. These are both linear associations. One's positive, one's negative. And I will say that if you have a positive association or a negative association, they are a linear association. Because that's the only way you can do. No association, you can end the whole spiel right there. Now, there's something called a trend line. A trend line is a line that we draw where roughly 1/2 of the dots are above it and 1/2 the dots are below it.
wait, why are you doing
It's called a trend line.
Oh.
You have to draw that.
Yes, please. So I can draw a trend line from both these in a place where roughly 1/2 the dots are above it and 1/2 the dots are below it.
I'm gonna do that.
So I can do what's called a trend line. Now, why would I draw a trend line?
See where the trend's at.
If I draw a line on a graph, what can I do with that line?
Call it a trend line.
You can make it.
I can make an equation, which means I can use that to estimate. Now think about this. Right here. As the temperature gets hotter, more people rent surfboards.
No way.
Why?
Because it's hard.
They want to go surf.
So this is a trend. So I can figure out, like here it might be, it's 65 degrees out. There's a couple of hardcore people who rent surfboards. When it gets out here at 90 degrees, they want surfboards, right?
Yeah.
A lot more people. So I could use this trend line to say, if I owned a surfboard company, and they said tomorrow the temperature will be 85, I could figure roughly how many surfboards need to be waxed and ready.
How about you
You
wax all of
them
them?
every day.
You only wax the surfboard right before you use it.
Yeah.
So every day, you go in every day.
Just like skis.
Yes.
Now, this one here is skis. Think about this. The colder it gets,
The more skis you use.
so more people rent, the colder it is, right? So as the temperature drops, the number of people who want skis increases. Again, I can figure out how many sets of skis I roughly need to be waxed today. I don't want to waste wax. That stuff's
wax
expensive.
Yes.
So you don't want to overwax, because if it sits there, you have to rewax it. You have to strip it off. It just makes it's a mess. So now, what does a nonlinear association mean?
It's
Generally, it means you've got
no
this.
line.
You've got no association. There's no line. You could try and create a line. In fact, you'll see TV programs where they'll say something like this. Using this data, we see a rise in increased violence. Well, no, that's just a big bunch of dots. But you can force, and that's why Texas wants 8th graders to know this. You can force an association, but it's not really there, is it?
Nope.
I could pretend it's there and lie to you, but it's not. So, okay, that was the rough intro.
Rough.
Yeah.